The morning sun spilled through the banyan leaves of Jetavana, casting long golden spears upon the earth, where hundreds of monks gathered in silence after alms round. Among them stood Ravata, a young monk whose calm face concealed a storm of pride. He raised his palms and declared before the assembly, "Brothers, last night I saw beyond this life. I remembered my births before this one. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of them." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some bowed in awe, others glanced uneasily toward Hananda, who watched quietly, his gaze soft yet searching. In the distance, the Buddha sat in stillness beneath a bodhi tree, his eyes half closed as if he already heard the wind carry the news. By midday, the murmur had spread like wildfire through the monastery. Every hut, every shaded path carried the same question. Could it be true that a monk among them had broken the veil of rebirth? Nanda approached the Buddha, bowed deeply, and said softly, "Venerable Sir, Ravata claims to see into countless past lives." The Buddha looked up from his bowl, eyes neither surprised nor doubtful, and replied only, "Then let him look more deeply." In the shade of the mango grove, Ravata retold his visions to an eager crowd. Cities built of gold, oceans crossed as animals and kings alike. His voice rose with each tale, his eyes bright with feverish light. Siddha listened, heart racing, believing every word, while Elder Kassapa remained silent, watching clouds gather in the distance. Later, as twilight fell, the Buddha sat upon a stone seat, overlooking the silent pond. Nunanda described all he had heard, each boast, each story. The Buddha listened without comment, eyes reflecting the ripples of fading light. When Nanda finished, the Buddha whispered, "Even dreams may appear as truth when the mind clings." At dawn the next day, the bell of Jetavana echoed softly through the mist. Ravata sat alone beneath the great tree, confidence glowing like a flame. Tomorrow, he thought, he would show the Buddha the visions of his past lives, and prove that he had gone where few dared to tread. Above him, a single leaf trembled, about to fall. The great hall of Jetavana filled before sunrise. Lamps flickered, shadows danced across polished wood, and the hush of expectation hung heavy. Ravata entered, his robe gathered with careful grace, and took his seat before the Buddha. The monks settled in a semicircle, faces half lit by the oil lamps. With a calm breath, Ravata began to speak. "In the life before this one, I was a merchant crossing the sea. Before that, a hunter. Before that, a king." His voice trembled with awe. The Buddha neither moved nor blinked, his gaze as still as the surface of an ancient pond. Ravata closed his eyes and began to describe his memories. Golden palaces, jeweled thrones, the sound of drums echoing through long-forgotten cities. "I can still feel the weight of the crown upon my head," he said softly. The monks leaned forward, caught between faith and doubt. Nanda glanced toward the Buddha, who remained unmoved, as if listening not to Ravata's words, but to the silence behind them. As Ravata continued, Elder Kassapa raised his voice gently. "Brother, memory is a bridge built by thought. Can one who still clings to the bridge see the river beneath?" A hush fell. Ravata's lips parted, but no reply came. Siddha, the novice, frowned at Kassapa, his young heart unable to bear the elder's doubt. The Buddha's eyes moved briefly toward Kassapa, a silent acknowledgement of wisdom spoken in few words. When the murmurs ceased, the Buddha finally spoke. His voice was calm, resonant, carrying effortlessly across the hall. "Ravata, when you remember, what remembers? The past, or the mind that clings to the past?" The question struck like a bell. Ravata's breath caught. He searched for an answer but found only the echo of his own silence. The monks bowed their heads, understanding, that the real debate had just begun. For a long time, no one moved. The hall seemed to breathe with the silence of understanding. Rivata lowered his gaze, feeling the first tremor of doubt touch his certainty. The Buddha simply closed his eyes once more. Outside, dawn broke. Birds stirred, and the first light spilled gently across the threshold, dissolving the last shadows of the night. That night, the monastery lay wrapped in silver moonlight. Rivata sat cross-legged in his cell, breath slow and steady, mind sinking into silence. Images began to rise. Faces, voices, lives he swore he had known. He saw himself as warrior and poet, beggar and priest. But as each image appeared, it rippled and broke apart like reflections on disturbed water. Sweat beaded on his brow. His calm faltered. The silence grew heavy with the sound of his own heartbeat. In his trance, Rivata's visions shattered. He stood amid fragments of his own memories, half-formed palaces, voices calling from nowhere, moments collapsing before they began. "Who am I among these?" he whispered. The question echoed in the void. The once vivid lives dissolved into mist, leaving only breath and trembling awareness. Outside, the young novice Siddha crept near the window, drawn by faint murmurs. He saw Rivata trembling in the moonlight, whispering names of long-dead kings. In childish faith, he thought this was enlightenment, and resolved that he too would remember all his lives. His eyes shone with dangerous wonder as he pressed his palms together. At the pond's edge, the Buddha gazed into the water. The moon floated upon it like a white lotus. Ananda stood nearby in silence. "Nanda," the Buddha said softly, "a man who chases his reflection may forget the one who looks." His words drifted over the still water, merging with the wind. Near dawn, Rivata's concentration broke. He gasped, eyes opening wide to the dim cell. The images had vanished, leaving a ringing emptiness that filled the room like thunder in silence. His pride crumbled into fear. For the first time, he wondered if his visions were not memory, but mirage. Rivata awoke before sunrise to the sound of wind rushing through the trees. The world seemed altered, sharper, stranger. Even the song of birds carried a note of unease. He stepped outside, eyes hollow from sleepless meditation. The monastery lay beneath pale morning mist. Every shadow felt alive, whispering doubts he could not name. He closed his eyes, seeking the clarity he once claimed to own, and found only fog within. That morning, the Buddha gathered the monks beneath the sala trees. His voice was gentle, yet each word struck deep. Just as a mirage shimmers upon the desert road, he said, so does the mind project its own past and call it truth. Rivata sat among the assembly, heart pounding. Each syllable felt directed at him alone, dissolving the walls he had built from certainty. When the Buddha fell silent, the forest itself seemed to echo the stillness. When night fell, the sky broke open. Thunder rolled across the plains and rain poured down in silver sheets. Rivata sat within his hut, trembling as the sounds surrounded him. "If what I saw was false," he whispered, "then who am I?" Lightning flashed. For an instant he saw his reflection in the puddled floor, eyes wide, a stranger staring back. The rain became his teacher, each drop erasing what he thought he knew. When the storm subsided, Elder Kassapa entered quietly, carrying a dry robe. He placed it over Rivata's shoulders without a word. Rivata looked up, eyes red from sleeplessness. "I was proud," he whispered. "I wished to be seen." Kassapa smiled faintly. "Then now, my brother, you begin to see." The hut filled with silence, warm, human, forgiving. Before sunrise, the storm clouds lifted, revealing a pale horizon washed clean. Rivata stepped outside, rainwater glistening across the courtyard stones. The Buddha walked slowly among the trees, his steps soundless. Rivata bowed deeply, and though no words were exchanged, he felt a quiet invitation. to look not backward into the dust of dreams, but inward, where no memory could deceive. Days passed, and Ravata withdrew into silence. The laughter of novices, the chanting of monks, all faded into a distant hum. He sat by the edge of the forest, staring at the withered leaves scattered across the path. In every fallen leaf he saw a life once claimed as his. Each memory now seemed fragile, false, a mirage of dust and pride. He whispered to himself, "If I have remembered 1,000 lives, why do I still not know peace?" As twilight deepened, the air shimmered. Faint voices called his name, echoes of his past selves. Faces formed in the darkness, beckoning him to believe. "Again, you were a king," they whispered. "You were wise, powerful, reborn for greatness." Rivata closed his eyes, trembling. "Leave me," he said, but the visions pressed closer until one voice, soft, childlike, asked, "Then who are you without us?" And with that, the visions shattered into black rain. That night, the heavens broke again. Rain lashed the monastery roofs, and wind screamed through the trees. Ravata knelt in his cell, body shaking. The world spun as visions and doubts collided, until he could no longer tell dream from waking. "Buddha," he cried aloud, "I have seen too much and understood nothing." But only the roar of rain answered. In the midst of the storm, a soft light entered his cell. The Buddha stood at the threshold, rain falling like silver threads around him. He said nothing, only his gaze met Ravata's, a gaze that carried neither judgment nor praise, only boundless stillness. Ravata bowed low, tears mingling with rain. The Buddha placed a hand gently upon his head and whispered, "Let the storm teach you what calm cannot." When the storm passed, Ravata remained kneeling in silence. The world had gone utterly still. No memory, no vision, no self remained. Only breath, like wind, through hollow bamboo. For the first time, he felt the peace that comes not from knowing but from surrender. Outside, dawn was already breaking, washing the world clean once more. The next morning, the Buddha walked to the monastery's lotus pond. Ravata followed at a distance, his heart beating softly beneath the rhythm of birdsong. The air was still, the water like polished glass. The Buddha sat upon a flat stone and looked into the pond without speaking. Ravata waited beside him, unsure what to expect. No sermon came, only the quiet hum of insects and the breath of dawn. Minutes passed, then an hour, yet the Buddha said nothing. A dragonfly landed upon the surface of the pond, sending tiny ripples outward. Ravata's gaze followed the ripples until they vanished. Suddenly he understood. Memory, identity, and pride were like those circles on water, real for a moment, gone the next. He bowed deeply, tears falling silently onto the earth. From a distance, Nananda watched the scene unfold. He had heard no words, yet felt the stillness spread through the forest like fragrance. So this is teaching," he whispered. A heron rose from the water, wings slow and graceful against the sky. Even the sound of its flight felt sacred. The Buddha turned his head slightly toward Ravata. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, Ravata saw all his past lives dissolve into one boundless present. The Buddha smiled faintly. The water remained unbroken now, perfectly still. For the first time, Ravata did not look into it for images. He simply saw the clear reflection of sky. The sun climbed higher. The pond shimmered like liquid glass, and the forest stirred gently. Ravata inhaled, one deep, complete breath, and felt no self to hold it. When he exhaled, the weight of lifetimes vanished. The Buddha rose and walked away, his steps silent. Ravata remained seated, smiling faintly into the stillness that now lived within him. Dawn broke clear over Jetavana. The air was cool, washed of every shadow. Rivata walked among the trees in silence, feeling each footstep as though it were the first he had ever taken. No visions came, no voices called. The rustle of leaves, the breath of wind, the cry of a bird, all felt infinitely alive. For the first time, he did not remember. He simply was. Later that morning, Rivata approached the Buddha as he sat beneath the familiar Bodhi tree. Bowing deeply, he whispered, "Master, I no longer remember my past lives." The Buddha smiled, eyes glinting with quiet warmth. "Then, Rivata," he said, "you have remembered what truly matters." The words sank into Rivata's heart like rain into fertile earth. Nanda watched from a distance, awe softening his features. All those who chase knowledge, he thought, must one day learn to stop running. He turned to the novices nearby, who whispered questions about the miracle they had heard. Smiling, Nanda said, "The greatest miracle is to see things as they are." The novices fell silent, the truth resonating deeper than explanation. At sunset, Rivata sat by the pond once more. The sky burned with gold and crimson. He closed his eyes, and within that silence, he saw no past lives, no future worlds, only boundless clarity. The reflection of the sky upon the water merged with his breath. The world was whole, and he was not apart from it. And so Rivata, the monk who once claimed to remember all his past lives, came to dwell in the only life that truly exists. Nanda's voice, gentle as evening wind, carries the closing words. The Buddha taught that to see one moment clearly is to see all moments. And thus, the one who sought the past finally remembered the present. The screen fades into the reflection of the moon upon still water, endless, silent, pure.